If you're an early-stage Web3 founder, apply to our award-winning accelerator program, Basecamp, at outlierventures.io/Basecamp. We write your first $50,000 check and give you access to 200 mentors, including many of the leading Web3 founders, and a network of 1,000 of the world's leading investors and exchanges. We've helped over 30 startups from 15 countries from all around the world raise $130 million in growth funding and can help you fast-track product market fit and, where relevant, the launch of your token economy. Okay, so today I'm really happy to welcome co-founder and CEO of Sandbox, Sebastian Bourget. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, and hello everyone who is listening today.
You describe yourself as an advocate for NFTs and blockchain in games. You are a developer and pioneer in the blockchain gaming space, very central to the NFT community, non-fungible token community, and also president of the Blockchain Gaming Alliance. The Sandbox is a community-driven platform where creators can monetize voxel assets, and we'll get you to explain that a little bit later, and gaming experiences on the Ethereum blockchain. The project's been going for around 2 years. So the reason why I wanted you on the show, there are several. So with Sandbox, you're working at the intersection of gaming, NFTs, and DeFi. So I really want to explore this convergence of communities, technologies, philosophies. CoinGecko, you've been making great traction with the Sandbox project, but also Sand, your token. CoinGecko launched the top NFTs coined by market cap, and Sand token was in the top 10. You have supervised the production and marketing of the studio's most popular titles, Doodle Group and the Sandbox. The Sandbox franchise has 3 episodes, and it's been downloaded more than 40 million times in total. So a huge success. Both Binance and Whale Pro. Whale Pro is one of the world's largest NFT collectors. I actually had him on the podcast last week. Are the 2 largest landowners in Sandbox, the game. Again, we'll unpack exactly what I mean by that a bit later. And you're really attracting top talent from the entertainment industry, including Bertrand Levy, former global VP of Universal Music, who joined as VP of Licensing and Brand Partnerships. And you've been getting some good success as well with some really interesting brands. So lots and lots to talk about there. So what I'm going to do is just contextualize you as a guest. I'll do my best to give the origin story. Feel free to correct, elaborate where appropriate. So you hold a computer science engineering degree from Télécom Sud Paris, one of France's leading graduate schools for engineering in information and communication technology. You hold a master's in computer system networking, telecommunications from the Chinese University of Hong Kong. You are a serial entrepreneur with, from what I could see, 12 years experience in startups. Of that, 8 in mobile gaming, 2 in blockchain, and exploring a number of different innovative business models in the space. You, from 2007 to 11, were COO at Wixie. Prior to that, you'd done a number of different projects, again, very linked to entertainment, Universal Music, AP Video, etc. You founded Pixel Owl 9 years ago, more than 9 years ago. 9 years ago. You founded it in 2011. Grew that to about 45 people in a very international team. And together you built the Family Mobile Network, or a social mobile games platform based on Characters IP. What's Characters IP?
Well, it's city builder games with Snoopy, Garfield, Goosebumps, Adam's Family. Those are kind of IPs that we're creating games with.
Okay. So you would license.
So we take the character. Yes, we license those IPs, and we create games that involve the characters from those IPs, like Snoopy, Peanut, and the other all the IPs. The strength of IPs is usually within the stories of their characters, and the fact that fans and players can relate to them. They already know their background, the context, who they are, etc. And we found that with video games, there's a great match in general. And at Pixel, we leverage that for, over 9 years now, creating successful city builder games that have been engaging players, for some of them for over 5 years. And quite surprisingly, and I think it's one of our strengths, like those games did monetize better 5 years later than when they launched initially together with the 3D movie in theaters, for example, showing that we can create long-term retaining games. And we leverage all that experience within Sandbox as well. So that's part of our background working with IPs and brands.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I think definitely going to pick up a little bit later on how brands are beginning to engage with NFTs, especially in a gaming context. So Pixel Owl was acquired by, I don't know how to pronounce this, Animoca?
Animoca.
Yeah.
The Animoca brands.
Okay, there you go. And the description of that company is it leverages gamification, blockchain, and AI to develop and publish a broad portfolio of games. The Sandbox was one of them. Crazy Kings and Crazy Defense Heroes was another. I think they have a pedigree in a lot of this brand work as well, right? Brand engagement and licensing.
Absolutely. They are one of the pioneers in blockchain and IP licensing. So it started in 2017 with an investment into CryptoKitties and publishing the Asian version of it. And now they have like a whole portfolio of games and M&A activities in the space, launching F1 Delta Time, launching MotoGP on the blockchain. They recently announced bringing Stargirls and BeastQuest and other IPs on the Flow blockchain by Dapper Labs. So really pushing together as a group the space with Sandbox and the Animoca brands product involved into blockchain gaming.
Yeah, and that's really exciting. Again, I had the Dapper Labs, Roham, on the podcast a while back, and it's really great to see that level of collaboration within the industry. I think it's what's going to really drive the space forward and build momentum. So in 2018, you co-founded Sandbox within Animoca, and was that the franchise or this particular instance? Because you said it's a franchise of 3 episodes. Was that the first episode was founded in 2018?
So the first Sandbox was created in 2012 as an iOS and Android game. Then the sequel was launched in 2016 called the Sandbox Evolution. And in 2018, we started, at the end of 2017, we started to work in this new 3D multi-platform, multiplayer version that used blockchain technology, more specifically NFTs and a native token called SAN. And we announced it by it was July 2018 at China Joy in Shanghai, and from there we continued developing the platform for now over 2 years, releasing progressively the various products. The 3D editor called VoxEdit, the marketplace, the game maker are all live in alpha or beta, and the game client, which will be like what players can use to play the games made by creators, which will launch in beta in 2020. And so this new version, the 3D version, we decided to spin out as a separate company that raised funds in 2019. We raised $4.5 million with investors like Square Enix, the video game company, True Global Venture, Hashed, and a few other either crypto investor or equity investor, traditional VC equity investors. And we've been operating that company, which is now has grown to 70 people in total. So it's becoming really large to build this new version that use blockchain, that use NFTs, that use SAN token. And that's really the vision we have for a collaborative metaverse with community-driven, community-based interoperability through NFTs and all the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you managed to convince traditional investors, at least in the context of gaming, to invest in crypto. Maybe not directly, maybe indirectly, but I think trying to understand the attitude of the gaming industry towards crypto, towards NFTs is really interesting. One of our portfolio company, Crucible, that went through the accelerator, it was really interesting watching them, speak to the various gaming engines and what have you. So it'd be really great to get your perspective on how the gaming industry is feeling towards NFTs at this current point. So maybe that's a good segue into my kind of first question, which is really to to understand how you see the convergence of gaming, NFTs, and DeFi happen. Obviously, it's not new. It's just perhaps of increasing interest, certainly within the crypto space. NFTs have kind of almost come out of nowhere to a lot of people, the large majority of people. But of course, there's been a huge amount of industry and work and investment going in over the last couple of years since 2017. So what's happening? What is the convergence? Where is the momentum coming from? Is it from blockchain to gaming, or is it from gaming to blockchain?
All right, so there's many points that I think we can address here. Like first, like how I believe like what your first question was, like how did we convince like investors from the traditional game industry to believe in our vision? And well, I think it comes down to we have assembled a great team that has already experience into making successful traditional games that have been downloaded millions of times and have been kept making revenue and engaging through live ops for years after they launch, as I mentioned before. So we were not like newcomers with no experience into making games. So that's been one of our strengths, really, of our 8 years of experience with making games. And that's why, like, when you incorporate a new technology and you have no experience into making games, this is usually a recipe for disaster. But if you have strong experience into, you've crafted your expertise, you've shown that you can build successful games that make revenue, plus you combine an innovative technology and you know like where you want to head towards, like within the next 5 to 10 years, I think investors feel more reassured. So I'm not saying like it's going always to be a disaster. There's definitely great people who disrupt the space without necessarily being 20 years in the industry. But investors tend to make more like safer bets rather than to be too much risk on the risk side, specifically when they are looking at blockchain. And that's why the Sandbox, as well as Animoca brand, as a broader group, have been able to convince a large number of them to bet on us. Now, the broad question behind is like everything that our team has been achieving for the past 2 years. And I think that's something like we can really be proud of as a team, is like we always have been delivering on our milestone. Like everything that we've communicated transparently, announced, etc., we've shown that, right, there's the 3D editor. It's a product. You can download it already on PC and Mac. You can play with it. You can export your creation. We have thousands of artists who are using it now on a daily basis to produce content, and they start uploading it to our marketplace. We have done land pre-sale on our marketplace, and I can talk a little bit more further after on what is it, a land, and what is this map we are selling. And we've sold systematically over 4 rounds part of the map with great success, with more demand than supply, and showing that we could interest people that are beyond the sphere of crypto investors or crypto gamers. So we show that we can bring artists who never know about anything about blockchain technology or crypto and onboard them on the platform before, get them interested to have sand and own land as well. So get them engaged within the vision of the platform and be among our best community ambassadors. And we've shown that we can also bring huge IPs, huge brand within our virtual world, differentiating ourselves, but first using the experience that we have accumulated for years in the space of IPs and brands, and differentiating ourselves from Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, and all potentially other decentralized virtual world which are not focused on the gaming or on the IP side necessarily. And all of that, I think, is a great recipe for, onboarding more users towards the use of the technology. We keep in mind always that the primary goal is to create a fun experience, something that you want to play, you want to keep coming to every day and engage with, without necessarily any knowledge of crypto or blockchain, or even knowing there's crypto or blockchain involved at some point. And we are going to achieve that through the use of IPs, brands, celebrities. That's also why we recently hired Bertrand Lévy as our VP of Licensing and Brands Partnership, and use his network and expertise at Universal Music before. And we have all those successful IPs partnership like Care Bears that we announced recently, Atari, Roller Coaster Tycoon, Shaun the Sheep, just to name a few. And we have even larger brands upcoming. It's still work in progress. It takes time. Like what you're seeing where Sandbox is right now, don't forget that it took us 2 years or more to reach that point. And that's something maybe because right now NFT space is growing, it's exploding even, which is really exciting. People tend to think like you can build a great product in 3 days and make huge return on investment in maybe 1 day. No, it's the effort of building an IP for 8 years and building a new version of a product for 2 years now. And we'll keep doing that for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Actually, that's how far our vision and roadmap goes. Because that's just realistically speaking, when we look at Fortnite, when we look at Minecraft, at Roblox, that's how long those games have been built, live, and operating. So it's a long road. We are committed to continue delivering on our different milestone roadmap, keep building our product, launch the first public beta in December 2020. But again, it's just a first public beta. So it means like it will give you a taste of the experience, but there will be so much more coming on the next months after as we keep updating it. And we have a fantastic community that it took time to build. It took time to get people to understand what we are trying to do and to adhere to follow the vision, to share the vision, and even to speak even better than we do in their own words about what we are doing. We have launched various incentives as well for creators and game makers to start participating on the platform and be rewarded for the work they bring, for the amazing content that they create, those through the Creator Fund and the Game Maker Fund. You can start seeing, we are very transparent, so you can download our product, you can try yourself, you can see the creators publish their creation on the marketplace or on social media. They make amazing content, amazing videos as well. You can see on live Twitch stream, creators creating real time with the product. So I think those are the kind of thing that when someone is not involved into blockchain or crypto, but they are just a regular gamer or regular person, when they see so much about a game, I think it starts sparkling in their eyes like, oh, I want to try that. They don't think about blockchain or anything. They just want to try the product. And we'll keep going on toward that direction to grow Sandbox.
Yeah, and so I definitely want to get into the kind of constituent parts. Increasingly, as I speak to people like yourself who are working in a different subset of NFT space, increasingly I'm convinced that you can look at, especially in the gaming context, it from a few different lenses. So kind of coming back to that question around the convergence of gaming, NFTs, and DeFi. So on the one hand, as you say, especially in the gaming context, this is about play. It's about experience and about community. And so in the way that Super Rare is building a community around digital art, you're building a community around an experience, a playful experience. But at the same time, you mentioned, so at the moment, the community is creators, makers, and they are, in a way, speculating on the assumption that the users will come. And so you're kind of starting with the content, and if you do the right content, then the users will come. But ultimately, they're building assets, and those assets can be traded and speculated upon, whether that's the land or the in-game assets and stuff. And then presumably they can become collateral. And so this is another really interesting thing potentially in with DeFi, that people could start to borrow or lend against collateral in Sandbox. And so certainly that's how I see all of these things coming together. I don't know if you see it in a similar way or a different way.
I think essentially, we're one of the first layer of creating NFTs that have a real value attached behind. And as such, others in the ecosystem can develop various incentive and mechanism to use that value. If the assets made by the creator were not valuable in any way, or if the land are no value, no one would want to build no one would want to accept lands as a collateral of something, etc. So for us, the primary goal always is like, okay, how do we define value? How do we make sure that all the content that's produced by us with the IPs, for example, like Care Bears, etc., or by the community of creators, since we are a user-generated content platform, has value. So we've defined a system inspired by gaming, game balance and game design mechanism that makes that the NFTs on Sandbox platform are real game items. They have attributes, attribute points and attributes. They have a scarcity and a rarity, and they have a utility attached behind. Like, as game assets can be used in the game maker to create game experience. They come with behaviors. Like a dragon can be a boss, an enemy. They are more or less powerful, better defense, better speed, this kind of things. You have lands. Lands, if they were lands just sitting by themselves and you could do nothing, I don't think they would be interesting in the eyes of so many people. They are interesting because they are located at specific point on the map, which are more or less close to interest points. Those interest points being our social hubs, being the brands and partners that are on the map, as well as they are the main way, the primary way to access the monetization mechanism on Sandbox as a creator. So if you want to publish a game experience and start earning sand in Sandbox platform, you actually need a land. So that's why, and that's pretty clear. Well, it's pretty easy and accessible to understand that. You don't need to understand, whereas there's more complex financial mechanism where you need to, it takes some time to start understanding what does it mean to loan, to collateralize, to have financial incentive related to staking, yield, etc. Like if you explain that to a kid of 10 years, average kid will not understand. But if you say, look, you have a space, you start selling stuff on this space, well, it makes revenue. Yeah, like I get it. It's like a business, a commerce, a restaurant, a shop. And that's why lands and in a way virtual real estate has been really easy to communicate to the larger public. There was recently on Twitter someone who posted, hey, Dad, I told my dad I bought a land, and my dad congratulated me, like he was so happy for me, etc. Then I told him it was a virtual land in a virtual world, and he just walked out of the room. I think that front, it made me laugh, but it translates very well as well, like the paradigm shift between the older generation thinking still estate in terms of only physical real world, and the new generation who understand that virtual real estate in those virtual worlds that are going to last a decade or more can be hugely valuable if and only if you do something on it also. Like if you just sit on it, there might be no opportunity. And that's where we're heading. Like I hope my kids are going to build successful business in the digital world, or they're going to work, play, engage, socialize in virtual worlds, potentially more than in the physical world, specifically where we are heading now with coronavirus, etc. And that's the vision for the metaverse, like having not just one, but a series of virtual worlds that can be interconnected, or through the use of blockchain technology and NFTs, having the content in it, or the avatar, so your identity as an NFT that you can use across all those different worlds, building a value that's underlying and enable the free trading, permissionless trading of goods and monetization. It's a key layer that's going to really revolutionize in general everybody's life. Some people, I didn't invent anything here. I'm just quoting some people like economists, etc. They're already talking about this fourth industrial revolution, where we are all going to produce value, work, live, play in virtual worlds, and the economy of the virtual world will get bigger than the economy of the real world.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating.
It's quite exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
it's fascinating to think about Sandbox or other equivalent environments, worlds, as potentially being an environment for the financial education of, younger generations. I was always, incredibly critical of the lack of financial education that I got, or how late I got it in life. And so this summer, I had the experience, in lockdown with my daughter. She's 7, of trying to get her into Animal Crossing. She was a disappointing entrepreneur, put it that way. I couldn't get her. I think she's going to have to go into a different profession to me. But it was also very limited in terms of the experience that you could have around those assets. So I really like the idea that the context to these assets is important to their value, and of course that kind of stickiness. But also this idea that because what happens in something like Sandbox or any virtual world is going to be experienced spill over into environments like Twitch, but also NFTs generally. As a asset, they are visually appealing generally, whether it's a digital art or a collectible. They're easy to understand, and therefore they have kind of this breakout potential in existing social environments, whether that's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, or what have you. So I think there's a real promise there to bring in the masses into these worlds, or into crypto and Web3 through these virtual environments. So let's break down the constituent parts of Sandbox a little bit more. You've alluded to a couple of elements, but it'd be great to be clear on that. So as I said, the Sandbox game at the moment is in alpha. Public beta is in December 2020. And currently the community are creators, not players. You have a couple of elements: marketplace, Vox Edit, the Sand token. It'd be good to understand those building blocks or functions of the ecosystem and how they interplay.
Right. Well, I think that's very relevant. And I wanted to add to my previous answer that also Sandbox is one of the first projects that we implementing play to earn. And how is this play to earn business model implemented? What it is exactly? The answer is exactly the answer to your question. So play to earn is a business model where players can enter a game or a virtual world like Sandbox, and without necessarily making any upfront payment, it can be totally free. They can earn rewards, they can earn tokens through the playtime, through the engagement time and their skills as a player, and they can convert the product of their playtime, here for example actually tokens, into fiat revenue at real world money, using, and the potential of play to earn is really increased with the use of blockchain technology and tokens, because the value of these tokens can appreciate over time, over the demand, and actually over the contribution. So more and more players actually participating creates a generally a more wealthy ecosystem for everyone. There's value growth, not value detrition. So that's a good use case. And in Sandbox, how we are building this play to earn is through a combination of different actors in our ecosystem, in our platform, and the different tokens underlying it. We have on Sandbox, we have players, we have artists who make the asset, we have game creators who make the game experience, we have potentially curators who are in charge of reviewing the content on the shop, on the gallery, helping to feature. We have people who assist in the community, who help onboarding new players, who provide support and other incentive. And depending on your profile of user, you're going potentially to have various activities. Players are going to enter the game. They are going to give some playtime to find resource gems, or some of them called gems and catalysts, collect them. And creators actually do need gems and catalysts to make assets that are more or less powerful in their games. So ultimately, but creators, maybe they don't want to spend too much time into playing. So there's already like a potential fair trade of value with two parties involved that need resource mutually from each other. And that's what we call the circular economy in Sandbox. So we think that no matter what everyone brings to Sandbox ecosystem in terms of like time, value, content, there is a way for them to be rewarded in tokens and ultimately in Sand token that can appreciate and that they can convert into the exchange that our partners like Binance, or we listed recently on Huobi, on Wazirix in India, on Crypto.com, and more exchange too.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to think through how you're designing that virtual economy and the interactions between players and creators and rewarding them. In a way, it's kind of a new form of mining, right? You know, you're minting new asset and supply based upon participation, contribution of time, resource.
Exactly. It's active engagement. Of course, you can also earn in passive engagement. And we just actually, right 1 hour ago, we announced our Sand liquidity mining, where if you stake Sand and ETH on our Uniswap pool, and you stake your LP tokens, then you can receive a part of the reward in Sand. So there should be always, as I mentioned, incentive for every contributor or actors within our ecosystem. Sand holders are part of it. Like we have over 180,000, according to latest public figures, people who own or hold Sand tokens. And we thought that was also a great way for them to benefit from, in a way, from the growth of the ecosystem and the platform as well. But if you stake Sand and you also play or create, there should be an extra reward for the more active participation and more active contribution as well to the value, the overall value.
And so there's something else I've heard you talk about called IP collaborations in the context of virtual estate. Could you tell us more about that?
So, well, it's always been our approach to leverage big brand IPs and celebrities and give them a presence in virtual world in Sandbox. So when we did the mobile game in Sandbox first, we had Pac-Man, we had Shrek, we had Ghostbusters as events, time-limited events in the game, but creators could use the characters from those games into their creation, their 2D world that they shared on an online gallery. However, so that's just logical. That we use the same experience and we just enhance it with blockchain. So we've done it with Atari, Shaun the Sheep, even more recently with Care Bears. We've given them a presence in our metaverse within our map, and we give them. We created limited game assets that can be used by creators to make their own stories, adventures, and game using their favorite characters. That's, I think, a great combination. So socializer, people who are not willing to create games, they can still come within, let's say, like, if you're familiar with Care Bears, there's this Care-a-Lot Kingdom, which is like a magical place with a kingdom and rainbows and clouds, etc., where you can just come and chat and hang around with other players. If you're creators, then you can build adventures with your favorite bears, and that can be a platformer, or that can be even fighting games if you want. Up to you. Like all the things that you used to do maybe when you were a kid playing with figurines and plastic toys, creating your own stories, because we all like this as kids, like we create stories with our characters. Now you can do the same within games.
I'm definitely not going to admit on a podcast that I used to play with Care Bears when I was a kid. That definitely didn't happen. So, I mean, I guess the...
It's one among the others. We're going to have many more brands just for the sake of the example.
I know. I think my daughter would love it. Now, so of course you said at the moment that there are no users, it's creators. So I'm guessing to be able to get brands to engage with an environment where there aren't yet users, scarcity helps there, right? Because they realize that there will be a premium if they wait, presumably. Is that as scarcity of assets, land, has that been a motivating factor in getting brands to engage early before there are users, or is it just purely on your kind of reputation?
There's two perspectives. Like from the user side, always, I think being a pioneer, of being an early adopter of a product should give you some rewards. When you're an early adopter in like a SaaS platform or an online service, sometimes you get free access forever for your lifetime, or you get some perks that users who are coming late at a later stage don't. And that's because you're going to contribute with your feedback, you're going to help the team to shape a better product. So it just feels natural. And we've done that by offering progressive discounts over our land pre-sales. But on the IPs and brand side, they have different perspective. What are our brands looking for? They are looking for engagement, reaching out to more people. So most of them are never going to be the pioneers or early adopters within something. They are going to wait for something like Fortnite become huge, have hundreds of millions of active users to finally figure out, oh, it's time we do something in Fortnite because there's so many of our customers in Fortnite. And then, I think there's something in the middle between like that we are working to bridge. The idea is like, as you build and you bring more and more brands, starting maybe with smaller brands, then progressively they will see like, wow, that's cool what they did, how it worked actually on their audience now, etc. So it will convince more and more to come progressively. And that's why usually we're really happy with the collaboration with Care Bears, for example, because even though they are a brand that has been out there for over 25 years, they have essentially been onboarded with blockchain. They love taking risks, and they were among the first. Same with Atari. It's a video game brand that's been out there since the beginning of video game industry, and now they are among the pioneers as well in blockchain with the Atari VCS blockchain console and several games that use blockchain technologies that are going to be made by Animoca brands, which is exciting. I think it's great to have those partners with us in Sandbox.
So that's a great segue into the work that you're doing as president of the Blockchain Game Alliance, which is bringing together, as you say, established players with new participants from the crypto space, blockchain gaming world. Could you tell us a little bit about some of the different participants there? And yeah.
Sure. Well, the Blockchain Game Alliance is a non-profit organization that counts over 150 members now. We are excited to see more and more members coming up every month. I guess it's thanks to the efforts we put in organizing more meetups, having more live stream content, and giving more visibility to all the members through that. Some of our sponsors and key members include Animoca Brands, Ubisoft, AMD, Consensus, Chromia, Algorand, MakerDAO, Matic are among the sponsors, so the big, and then we have a large range of blockchain games, traditional games, media, and then now even development solution, chains and protocol now, and even actually investors. So it's great to see like we're able to bring this special space where all these different actors of the ecosystem are connecting and working toward the same goal, which is essentially to promote the use of blockchain technology by leading by the example toward the bigger industry, which is the video game industry.
So let's go back to that big vision, metaverse big vision that you were discussing at the beginning of the podcast. So I've heard the term content is the platform. And I guess that's kind of linked to this idea around portability, that you can own something or have value in one environment and you can port it into another environment. Could you explain this vision of content as the platform and how that fits into your big vision for the metaverse?
Well, it's clear here, like one of the strong innovation that NFTs have brought is indeed the fact that you have NFTs. Those are assets can live outside of the game they were initially created for. They can be used by other games thanks to the possibility of interoperability. And it means essentially that the NFTs can carry their own distribution. So you don't need to have like one game with NFT to actually promote those NFTs. You can have the NFTs on the marketplaces. You can have the NFT in the player wallets as a way to attract those players who own those NFT into new games, new experience. It becomes a user acquisition strategy. It becomes a distribution platform of its own. So that's why I think it's pretty exciting. And in Sandbox vision, as we are a user-generated content virtual world, NFTs are not made by us. They are made by the creators themselves using our NFT maker, VoxEdit. So we give users the power, the possibility to make their own NFT and to make their own promotion and distribution of it through it. So that's I think a very interesting possibility. We have seen example of the content we make in Sandbox already usable on other product, other platform, other blockchain already through various partnerships. And that's also one step toward this promise of this metaverse where the content that's being designed by different users can travel across those virtual worlds. It's no longer locked. So the value of the content is no longer locked as well within the centralized space. And that's going to be a main difference with the other metaverse, because the metaverse is a concept. It's not necessarily blockchain related. Some will say that Fortnite is the metaverse, Roblox is a metaverse, the new Facebook Horizons is a metaverse. But in each one of them, they are actually silos. The value, the users, they cannot travel from one to another. So the value of those silos is essentially it's 100% into locking the content and the users in it. We are ongoing. On the opposite, we do believe that there is more value actually if there is a free circulation of goods and people across the virtual world. Now, I hope that my message can be heard and we'll have some more and more grounds like numbers and metrics and good example to sustain what at the moment is still a vision and could take 5 or 10 years more to achieve. But I'm not the only one believing in it. I do believe there's major actors, major investors that openly talk about it. And so we hopefully will see change in the upcoming years.
I think an open metaverse is a vision that I can certainly buy into. So, Sebastian, it's been great having you on the show. I think people will find it really fascinating. It certainly provoked a couple of thoughts for me that I'm going to go away and noodle on. Good luck with the beta launch in December. I guess it's going to come at you pretty quickly, but as you say, you've been pretty good at hitting deadlines, so no pressure. Good luck with everything, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jamie. It's been a pleasure having this conversation, and thank you everyone for listening. We hope to see you in our metaverse, so join Sandbox. Cheers.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and share your feedback to help us reach as many people as possible with the important mission of Web3.